Okay, we'll get the meeting underway. This is July 18, 2017. This is a regular meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board. I ask Cassie Jennings if she'll call the roll of board directors.
Member Ludwig?
Here.
Member Green?
Here.
Member Kubine?
Here.
Member Baldwin?
Here.
Member Rosen? Here.
All 5 directors are present this evening. We have quite a long agenda this evening, but very, very important agenda. And the first 3 items are items that we have every regular board meeting, and that is action items to consider approving the minutes of previous meetings. And there are 3 sets of minutes to act upon this evening. All the board members have been supplied with these prior to the meeting for their opportunity to review them. And the minutes concerned tonight are those for the June 7, 2017 special board meeting, and for the June 13, 2017 special board meetings, and for the June 20, 2017 regular board meeting, meeting for the budget. So we have those 3, and I'll move that we approve those 3 sets of minutes. Okay. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Do we have any discussion about the minutes? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, motion carries, and those 3 minutes stand approved. Next item this evening is number 4 on the agenda. It's an information item. It's the Louisville Water presentation on Louisville Pure Tap brand. We have a lady this evening, Kelly Smith, who's here, and Mr. Billings will introduce her. She's from the Louisville Water Company.
The Louisville Water Company provides water to almost 1 million customers in the Louisville Metro and parts of Bullitt, Hardin, Nelson, Oldham, Shelby, and Spencer counties. Louisville Water has been producing water since 1860 and is well known for its safe, reliable, and great tasting water, primarily due to its long-standing commitment to quality and innovation. When bottled water sales began rapidly rising in the 1990s, they launched Louisville Pure Tap brand in the summer of 1996 in an effort to remind their customers that Louisville's tap water is just as good, or actually even better, than the expensive, less regulated bottled water products. I'd like to introduce Ms. Kelly Deering-Smith.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. You can say hello back. I know it's late. I want to say thank you, first of all, for letting me end my day with you. Louisville Water Company had a board meeting today at 11 o'clock, so I've been sitting a while today, so it was kind of nice to get out of the building and come here. I've worked with Dave Billings for many, many years, and just thank you for your partnership. Louisville Water has a great partnership with the Frankfort Plant Board. I'm enjoying getting to know Herbie as well, and so we really value the work that you do every day. Dave asked me, and Herbie actually, I just met a while back, asked me if I would come and speak with you about the program that we launched in Louisville 20 years ago to get people talking and thinking about something that we all take for granted, and that's tap water. So I have a very short presentation I'm going to share with you, and I must say hats off to you, because when I came in the room today, I saw those pitchers filled with good Frankfort water, so good job, you're already on the right page. So I really call this the multi-billion gallon idea, because what this is, it's a story. It's a story of how Louisville Water took something all of us take for granted and turned it into a marketing campaign. Louisville Water, on average, sells about 34 billion gallons of drinking water every year. And so that's why I call it this multi-billion gallon idea. First of all, in case you're not that familiar with us, Louisville Water began as Kentucky's first public water provider in 1860. Our original buildings are the white buildings that you see there. That's the pumping station and the water tower. Actually, our current pumping station, the brown building, sits right next door on the Ohio River. We are the largest public water provider in the state of Kentucky. We are a billion-gallon business, more than 34 billion gallons of drinking water every year to nearly 1 million people. So we have about 4,200 miles of pipe. On average, we produce about 120 million gallons of water a day. So about 1 million people every day in the region drink our water. We have this rich history of innovation at Louisville Water. In 1896, we did landmark experiments in filtration that really paved the way for safe drinking water around the world, and it all happened right here in Louisville and in Kentucky. Our original structures, those white buildings, are National Historic Landmarks, and we were the first in the world to use a tunnel and well as a source for drinking water back in 2011. So we have this very proud history of advancing the science of drinking water. And it's just water, right? I mean, that's what it is, right? You just turn on the faucet and it magically appears. Well, no, in Louisville, we say it's a water so good that we gave it a name, Louisville Pure Tap. As David mentioned, back in the 1990s, bottled water sales were all the rage. You had to have a bottle of water. It was cool to have one. And we were a little angry about that. We were very proud of our product. We're known for great tasting water. And we thought that we should do something about it. It doesn't matter where you work, whether it's Louisville, whether it's Frankfort, Lexington, even Flint, Michigan, or Dallas, Texas. We are in a business where a recall doesn't exist. We're not like Kroger. You know, if you get a bag of salad and Kroger realizes something happened, they can call a recall and you take the salad back. Once you guys send that water from your plant and we send our water from our plant, we can't recall it. I tell people in Louisville, we've got the health of the community right there in the palm of our hands. We mess up, we do something wrong, we hurt a lot of people. So you got to call attention to what you do, but yet we all take it for granted. Before I go any further, I want to do a quick little experiment. I do this with everybody I speak with just to get you thinking about your water here. Now you guys are a little unique because you are more than just water, but I think you can relate. I want you to raise your hand within the last year you've lost power at your house. How many people have lost power during a storm? Raise your hand. Okay, so now let's think about 5 years. Last 5 years, how many of you have had a problem with cable television or even direct TV or satellite TV? It always goes out right before the UK game, right? Or the U of L game? Anybody? Not here, maybe not here. That's why I said you're unique, so kind of play along with me here. Well, how many of you within the last 10 years have gone more than a day without drinking water? Anybody? We are so darn good at our jobs, right? So it's easy to take something for granted when you don't really ever lose it. So I am a huge advocate that water utilities have to stop being so conservative when it comes to tap water. We produce a commodity that you can't live without, you can't recall, and yet people take us for granted. So back in Louisville in the 1990s, 1997 to be exact, we decided to trademark tap water. We thought if Nike can do it with a swoosh and a tennis shoe, why can't we do it with water? So we said our water is called Louisville Pure Tap. We launched this huge marketing campaign. We created a plastic, that's important, a plastic bottle that you could take out for free. We'd give them out by the thousands and you just fill it up. And we told people if you want great tasting bottled water, all you need is the bottle. From that campaign grew an education program that now reaches over 110 schools a year. We reach 500,000 people a year with these outreach events. We were talking about our water. So the message in the bottle was appearing at all these events, school-based curriculum. We even launched a bottling facility. We started bottling our water. If it's so good, we should put it in an 8-ounce plastic bottle and hand it out for free. And we even created a mascot called Tapper who looked like a plastic water bottle. So 15 years into the campaign, we were going great, but it suddenly hit me that the message was sticking. People knew that it was Louisville Pure Tap, but the value of the campaign, we had lost sight of the campaign. We were so focused on promoting the bottle, the container, that we forgot that what we should have been promoting was what we're putting in the bottle. And even our mascot looked like a plastic bottle. 15 years into the campaign, plastic was a no-no. Remember BPA came out and suddenly it wasn't cool to have a plastic bottle anymore. And so we said, okay, it's time to retool. So what did we do? We got back to the tap. So we grew up. In 2011, we rebranded ourselves, a new logo. It looks a little different. And we got rid of that bottling facility. We stopped bottling our water in 8-ounce bottles. And we went to a very green approach. So we came up with compostable cups, reusable containers, coolers, and water pitchers. We even created mobile water units that connect directly to the water main, pulls out a constant supply of water, and these are at events now all over Louisville. You can see we started branding the product and promoting how you use Louisville water. That is my daughter up there at a cross-country meet with her Pure Tap bottle. She was the one you saw with the plastic bottle up front, so she's kind of grown up with the campaign. This is at a corporate meeting. At the very bottom, there's a U of L photographer holding a Pure Tap bottle, and this is a stack of cups for the Louisville mini marathon and the marathon races. We came up with a communication plan. We really began talking about what we do. How much does it take? So what costs less than a penny? 66 glasses of Louisville Pure Tap. That's less than a gallon right there. And so we stacked 66 cups and we taped them together, and we take that everywhere we go. So what costs less than a penny? That's what you get. We actually made our product appear like a premium brand. That's our water in a wine bottle with a label on it at the Kentucky Derby Festival. So we say, why drink the wine when you can have the water? So we did that ourselves in our group. And then we had a communications plan. We linked Louisville water to our product. We tell people how we make drinking water, invited them inside the treatment plant, and every event we do, we have staff that explains what we do. And it really became more than just a giveaway. We weren't the state fair anymore where you just called us for the free product and we gave you stuff. You actually got a message that went with the water. And then a few years ago, we started branding drinking water fountains. We say now that your fountain has to be worthy to get our logo. It has to look good. It can't be a fountain that no one uses and it's kind of tucked back in the back of a building. So this is a soccer complex, the Louisville Metro Health Department. This is our reservoir where we actually purchased an outdoor drinking water fountain. And this is at the Louisville Zoo. You can also see a fountain at U of L and at the KFC Yum Center downtown. We really try to complement our partners. You can see the one at the Yum Center. It says, winning, it must be in the water. We're a little cocky too sometimes about our water. And then there's a sign there at the business school at U of L that says, thirsty, get back to the tap. It'll save you some money. I will tell you, the branded drinking water fountains are very popular. But after Flint, Michigan, we took a very quick time out and huddled up and said, okay, we're doing the right thing, right? And we all agreed, yes, we were. We kind of had that quality conversation and made sure that there wasn't any public health concerns with this. This is another example of an indoor bottle fill station at a museum. And then Kentucky Kingdom has also a branded water fountain too. I wanted you to see the difference in what we do. Some of what we do is just a sign above the fountain. Some of it is a bottle fill station that you see there on the left. We've also become a little cocky. We tell people if you want Louisville water to be at your event, then you got to serve Pure Tap. I use the Coke and Pepsi example. If you worked at Coke, do you think they'd let you bring Pepsi in the building? No. And if you worked for Crest toothpaste, what happens if you brush your teeth with Colgate? I would think that's a no-no. Well, I think we should be just as proud as our brand. So when you get hired at Louisville Water, everyone gets a reusable Louisville Pure Tap bottle, and you get a message that fill up at the tap. And so I've been known, if you are spotted in our building with what I call the evil empire, which is bottled water, I will come up to you and proudly replace it with a reusable bottle. We need to be really confident about what we do. We need our employees to be confident. There is a place for bottled water in an emergency, but day to day, our water is great to drink. These reusable coolers are probably one of the most popular things we have now. These are igloo coolers that are wrapped with a Louisville water message on them. We have 200 of these coolers, and I am amazed that PTA moms actually fight Louisville traffic, come downtown, pick up 8 coolers and 300 cups for the walkathon, and then they bring the coolers back when they're done. It's amazing. People have bought into the campaign. The mascot's all grown up now too. Tapper looks like a cup of water, not a bottle anymore. He pops into events, whether it be the zoo, downtown. He was in a park yesterday walking around. And then we launched a social media campaign. So we have employee ambassadors, community champions, and people actually tweet about our drinking water, believe it or not. If you search Twitter right now and just pop in Louisville Water, the top tweets that you're gonna see are college kids talking about our water. And a lot of them were at Forecastle, the music festival this weekend in Louisville. And then one of my favorite tweets so far was after Monday, there was a person in Louisville from Cincinnati, and he said, 2 things that are certain in life. Cincinnati folks are going to talk about Fiona the hippo, if you've seen that story, and Louisvillians are going to talk about their tap water. It's like, wow, that's pretty good. We're proud that people are proud of our tap water. Here are some of the other tweets from college students. I really like the one in the middle. It says, "Thank the universe for the cosmic happenings leading to me being born in Louisville so that I have the best tap water on the planet." I thought that was pretty cool. And then we've linked our product to the community as well. So we do some fun things with our bottle. That's next to the Big Bat. It's at a park there in the zoo. And our employees are encouraged to take their bottle where they travel, kind of like Where's Waldo. That's one of our employees in Israel next to a camel. Someone just sent us a picture not too long ago from the beach. One of our employees was in Thailand last week and took a picture of the Pure Tap bottle next to a drinking water fountain there. We do a contest to get people thinking about why they drink tap water. We had over 200 responses. Our employees chose the top 10, and we turned it into a t-shirt that we hand out to our customers. Some of our favorite answers were, I miss it when I travel. It makes me a pure Louisvillian. No lemon required. And then it's the secret behind fast horses and beautiful women. So we had some fun with it. Some members on my staff have these cards. They're called Get Spotted. And if we see you out in the public drinking with your Louisville Pure Tap bottle, we actually will say, hey, thanks for being an ambassador for the company. Send us an email and we'll give you a t-shirt. And then we've also won some national titles. There's actually a taste test competition in the water industry. We're very proud that we've won it twice. And so we brag about the taste of our water and we have some fun with signage too. So where are we at now in 2017? Louisville Pure Tap is still at the heart of everything we do. It is valued by the city. When the mayor has a press conference, we make sure that he has a bottle right next to him. If you go into the mayor's office today, you will find water pitchers and cups in Mayor Fisher's office. We get really positive media. A lot of people would go, well, gosh, aren't you just wasting ratepayer money and you're buying bottles and cups and coolers? Absolutely not. We are providing a public service. We are preventing a PTA from spending, I don't know, $100 on bottled water, and we're reaching people in the community. You will never see me hand out an ink pen unless I can tell you how it's made with water. Everything we hand out to our customers ties back to the water. I really feel like the value is valued. We're not a giveaway anymore. If you want Louisville water at your event, you need to put forth some effort and you need to have us there. We've also stepped up the messaging. In case you didn't know it, it's bourbon country around here right now. 3 of our top customers are distilleries, so we tell people we are the rocks in your bourbon on the rocks. We actually have a partnership now with the bourbon industry on the left. That's our water paired with, I think that's Bullet whiskey there. We actually work with the state on economic development and our local chamber. If you're talking about the city of Louisville and you're going to do a bourbon tasting, then let me bring the water. So we've gone to Dallas and Atlanta to court businesses, and I bring the water, you bring the bourbon, I'll bring the water. And then we have a campaign called BYOB, Bring Your Own Bottle. So if we're going to be at an event and our coolers and our mobile units are there, bring your own bottle and fill up for free. We have a museum in our original pumping station. Louisville Pure Tap is part of the story there. And we actually work with our business partners as well. So we have lots of businesses in Louisville that like to talk about how they use Louisville water. That's a Comfy Cow ice cream shop, and the sign there says cows can drink up to 30 gallons of water in a day. So see a little trivia fact you never knew. So what are the results 20 years into this campaign? That's the mayor with his Pure Tap bottle there. People take it on a picnic, and that's a local coffee shop that's serving water their own way, but we gave them a supply of cups that made it easy to serve water. I'll hold up just a few examples of what we do today. These are the cups we use today. They're compostable. So we have 2 sizes. We give these to the public in stacks of 50 or 100. If you have your own bottle and you don't want one of our Pure Tap bottles, we actually have a sticker that will go on your bottle, or kids love to put these on their laptops as well. We have 2 kinds of bottles now. We do have the adult version. We have a kid version as well. And then because we are aligned with the bourbon industry, we actually have a coaster that says distinct, crisp, and clean. And yes, the bourbon's really good too. So we make sure you get a coaster if you get a bottle as well. Let me wrap this up. So does the campaign matter? It really does. We've elevated the value of our water. We do rate increases every year. We are doing water main projects. We're doing capital construction. The only time your customers see you or hear from you cannot be when you need money or when something breaks. So the importance of your employees sharing the story of what you do, whether it be cable, light, or water, is critically important. It really connects our product to the community. People really don't think about where their drinking water comes from, but you're a lifeline to this community. And you get to tell the story of how you do it. It takes 2.5 days, start to finish, the Ohio River to your faucet. And now people have a sense that it just doesn't magically appear. We've had a tremendous success with our campaign, and I'm really proud of what we've done. I recognize that we are unique. We are a larger water utility. I have a staff. A lot of times people in a mid-size or a small utility may not have a huge staff. But as a utility worker, we all have a role in communications. We are all communicators and representatives of our utility. So whether you want to put a few $100s into coolers and cups, or whether you just want to make sure that the city commissioners here or even the public health department has water pitchers to serve water, it's really easy to start to get your message out there. I'm really hoping that my kid generation, I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, that they're the generation that doesn't just run to the convenience store and grabs bottles of water and takes into the classroom, that they actually value the product that's in their community. So I want to thank you for the opportunity for letting me speak with you tonight. One of my other jobs at Louisville Water is that I do have to do our social media. So I'm just going to take a really quick picture here of the bottle at the Frankfort plant board, so I can make sure I can post that later. So is there any questions that I can answer for anyone, or something that perhaps wasn't clear?
Well, I just was curious about that. Whoops. The competition, the taste competition, was that against standard grocery store bottled water or other municipal supplies?
So the National Taste Test Competition is against water utilities in the American Water Works Association. So those are all public water providers. So you have to win our region first, which is Kentucky and Tennessee, and then you go to the national competition. So we've won the national competition twice, in 2008 and 2013. We've actually done our own taste test challenges in Louisville as well on a local level. We stack our water up against Dasani, Aquafina, commercial bottled brand, and we typically come out on top. Yeah, it's fun. Anybody else? Great. Well, I know you have a very busy agenda, and I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you and hopefully get your meeting off to a good start and get you thinking a little bit. If I can ever be of resource to you or help or answer any questions, please let me know. So thank you.
That was a great presentation.
Yeah, ma'am,
Thank you.
I thank you for coming, and it raises our awareness.
Good.
Maybe something we really haven't thought much about at all. And,
Well, I'm happy to help get you on that track.
It gives Kathy something to do for the next meeting, too.
She has my card, let me just say, okay? All right.
All right, well. All right, next item, this is a regular monthly information item, and it's headed up as public comment and TNA comments. So we'll ask anybody who cares to comment tonight to come to the podium. Ask you to identify yourself. Please tell us whether or not you're a Frankfort Plant Board customer. You do not have to be a Frankfort Plant Board customer. And do we have anybody this evening who cares to? Sir? Mm-hmm.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Van Sickle. I live at 109 Reservoir Road, there in the Tanglewood neighborhood. I am a plant board customer. As of August 1st, I will be taking over as president of the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association. The FPB board asked for input from the TNA in efforts to finalize its new head-in project located in the Tanglewood neighborhood. As it pertains to tonight's meeting, the choice of fencing around the city's property was still an outstanding item. The TNA has voted on the fence design twice previously. The first fencing option was rejected by the FPB due to the cost of the fence. The second fencing option was rejected by the FPB due to the cost associated with existing underground utilities. FPB provided guided tours of the property, pointing out potential problem areas, as well as site plans of the underground utilities. The TNA agreed that the existing underground utilities concerns in relation to the second fencing option was warranted and brought the third fencing option to vote. The TNA membership voted to accept the 7-foot Aegis 2 fence with ornamental rings on grade with brick pillars every 16 foot or as detailed on the site plans. Also, part of the finalization of the head-end project, the TNA eagerly awaits the landscaping plan and hopes that the FPB will take into consideration concerns that the TNA may have. The FPB board also asked for input from the TNA regarding the new reservoir project. The input consisted of roof design, a retaining wall covering the exposed tank on the south side, and a color choice for the new tank. Input regarding tank capacity and the number of tanks was not solicited. Since January of 2017, the TNA has had the opinion that a new reservoir should not be constructed where the existing reservoir is located. When the reservoir originally was constructed, the land where the reservoir was nothing but farmland, and it was a lengthy ride by horse and buggy from the then Frankfort city limits. Today, the reservoir sits in the middle of a neighborhood that sits in the middle of Frankfort. The FPB has stated that the cost is the primary reason why the new reservoir needs to go in the same property as the existing one. TNA certainly doesn't want to see rates increase for plant board customers, as nearly every member of the TNA also is a customer of the plant board. In efforts to work with the plant board regarding the new reservoir, TNA also has stated that it would not oppose the construction of the new reservoir in the existing location if the same visual size of the reservoir did not change. Since the Frankfort Plant Board already has approved the new reservoir to be constructed at the existing location with a single tank that would have a much bigger visual impact, the TNA declines the offer to add additional input regarding the new reservoir project at this time. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else who cares to make public comment this evening? Nobody? All right, we'll move on. Next item is agenda item number 6. I'm asking the board for permission to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61810(1)(c) for the discussion of potential litigation regarding Tanglewood zoning. Do we have a motion for a closed session?
I move we go into closed session,
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
We have a second. We have a motion. We have a second.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Hearing no no's, we'll go into closed session, which I understand will be where?
Directly behind.
Okay. All right, so we'll get back there and have this closed session and return fairly quickly, I believe. Okay, we're still in closed session, so do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Hearing no no's, we're out of closed session, back into open session. Next item is number 8. It's an action item. Approve Tanglewood fence selection and accept the proposed project schedule. The proposed project schedule, I think, is GRW's project schedule, which is in the published agenda. Do we have anybody with staff that intends to present this, or just going
John Higginbotham and I have both been working on this agenda item. John, do you want to take it, or you'd like me to? Staff is recommending that the plant board construct the 7-foot black Aegis fence on grade with the ring detail and the brick piers as the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association has selected. And we've included in the board package some detail sections of what this fence would look like. And also, as you pointed out, we've got a proposed construction schedule with the final design being complete August the 9th. It'll be presented by GRW here on August the 15th. And you go through the construction schedule, and I've got it being completed on October the 2nd.
Okay, members?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I move to approve the fence selection of the 7-foot black Aegis 2 fence with the ring detail on grade with the brick piers along all residential properties in Phase 1. In addition, FPB would agree to maintain the existing curb to the fullest extent feasible. If necessary, FPB will make its best efforts to repair the existing curb in consultation with the property owners. The existing chain link fence will be removed in Phase 1, and is further moved that the time schedule prepared by GRW and attached to this motion be adopted, recognizing that both FPB and TNA will attempt to accommodate landscape review in a timely manner.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion. All of this has been discussed with representatives of Tanglewood and neighborhood and so forth, right?
Yes, sir. Me and Mr. Cubine met with them last night discussing the fence and the proposed construction schedule.
And I'd like to mention, Mr. Chairman, if I could, just on a side note, that, I know we've had a long history of this entire project, but I want to thank Nathan, Joel, Suzanne Gray, who was there last night. We've gone back and forth on a lot of issues, but they continue to come to the table. They've worked with us, and I know they don't want to take credit for the whole process. I think that's safe, isn't it, Nathan? But I do want to commend them that they've continued to come back to the table and try to work with us, and I think they need to be recognized for that.
Okay, we're in discussion. Any more discussion? So there will be specific plans drawn up by the engineers in accordance with this on their schedule?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, we'll call for it. We'll call this by director. A vote yes is to grant the motion. A vote no is to not grant the motion.
Member Cubine?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Rosen? Yes. Member Lindsey?
Yes. All right, the motion carries. Next item is an action item. Consider approving recommendations from FPB staff and Strand Associates regarding the roof and the retaining wall design criteria for the reservoir replacement project. And this is David Billings' subject.
Staff and Strand have been working on a solution for the aging reservoir for many years. Current design is a blend of the most cost-effective solution that will offer operational flexibility, as well as very affordable additional storage in the future should conditions warrant so. More of the recent background on the project. December 2016, we had a tour and a public meeting to solicit input. In March, the board approved staff and Strand's recommendation to replace the existing south basin with a new single 7 million gallon pre-stressed concrete tank and requested additional information on roof options. In April, CROM presented 3 different concrete roof options for consideration. They were the standard 1/10 dome at no additional cost. They were the lower 1/16 rise dome for an additional $500,000, and the flat roof option, which was an additional $1.75 million. In May, we had a special call meeting, and we presented 3D models with all the different roof options, each with and without a retaining wall, with an additional estimated cost of $320,000. As a matter of course, staff recommends the board approve the standard 1/10 roof option without the retaining wall due to those options being the least cost alternative and the shortest construction time frame.
Okay. Members, discussion?
David, as I understand, and Nathan from Tanglewood talked about the reason Tanglewood has not made a recommendation in this area, but as far as the color, the shading of the tank and all that, that's still open for a period of time if Tanglewood does want to submit any comments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if we approve this, the next step then is for the engineers to draw up their specific engineering plans.
Yes, sir. The next step would be for us to wrap up the design plans.
Okay. All right. Members, discussion? Motion, if any?
I move we approve the recommendation prepared in the board book, Mr. Chairman.
I second it.
That recommendation is to to build the standard 1/10 dome roof option without the retaining wall.
That's correct, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second,
Okay.
yes.
Discussion? Okay, we're leaving the color up to the neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
They probably got 2 years to decide on color.
Okay. All right, we'll call this by member. A vote yes is to approve the motion, a vote no is to deny the motion.
Member Cubine?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
And Member Ludwig?
Yes. Okay, all right, so the board has approved both of these agenda items this evening. Next step is for the engineers to work on their designs and so forth, and we'll direct the staff to start making preparations for submission of these materials to city planning and zoning in accordance with state law. Okay, next item is number 10. That's our monthly information item, departmental reports. I think in view of the length of the agenda this evening, I think we'll dispense with the monthly departmental reports, except to the extent that if a board member has any questions for any of the superintendents or department heads here this evening on any of these subjects, that's fine. But otherwise, I think we'll dispense with that. Keep moving. Okay.
I had one question, which is concerning the drinking fountain and how that's going, the drinking fountain. Thank you. The drinking fountain for downtown and its installation, how that looks?
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
You've always got a smile. How do you do that?
Yes, the infrastructure is in for the one on the St. Clair Mall. We're working on the requisition this afternoon to actually order all 3 fountains. And I think after the fair, we'll probably do the one at the County Lakeview Park first. But they said 4 to 6 weeks delivery, but as soon as we get those in, we'll be putting them in. So,
Sounds good.
moving right along.
Thank you.
And I did meet with the new city manager and Tom Bradley downtown and discuss the cafe permit and where we located the one on St. Clair to avoid any conflict there.
That's great, thanks.
Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is number 11. It's an information item. Action plan resulting from the 2016-2017 Customer Service Transactional Survey, which was performed by Comer Research. And Ms. Avery will discuss that.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you remember, at the May 2017 board meeting, the board requested that staff prepare an action plan to address customer wait times and efficiencies to improve the overall customer experience. Customer wait time was a significant area identified for improvement during the customer service transaction survey completed by Comer Research in March. Staff reviewed and identified specific ways to reduce customer wait time and improve the overall customer experience. Current processes have been targeted for revamp, and new processes and procedures are in the research, development, and implementation stages. A review of customer service treatment times indicate that the tasks that require the greatest amount of time for the CSR is moving services from one location to another, starting new services, and creating payment arrangements. These are the areas that are being targeted for technological improvements, and we're working with IT on those. And then other items are related to working efficiently, basically working smarter and not harder. And we anticipate a greater efficiency with the implementation of some of these processes and procedures and changes to existing processes and continued cooperation and collaboration with the other departments. So in your board packet on page 7, you will notice that the action plan is there with some of the targeted dates. Many of them have already begun. Many of them are in the implementation or development stages, and some are still in the research stages. And many of them will be ongoing throughout time. We will have to reassess some things and look back and see what actually is going to work with us, especially with our new building and our new design, and then we'll be moving forward. Some of the initial things, of course, are the improvement of the move order process, implementing additional items that customers can take care of themselves online. The initial item is that of payment arrangements, filling the vacant receptionist position, and also continue to interview for the vacant CSR position. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Monique, because it's been about a month now since we've been out here, possibly.
Yes, sir.
How's things going? How does the public seem to react to us when they come out here now?
They are extremely impressed with the amount of space that our CSRs now have, that they're not sitting in congested areas, the privacy that they have when dealing with the customer in taking care of their day-to-day business. We get a lot of compliments with that, and we also get a lot of positive feedback on the drive-through. So those are some of the significant areas.
So the drive-through is getting a lot of volume?
It's doing very well. Mhm. Doing well.
What about the Dropbox? Does it get much action?
Oh, yes, yes. I checked it, when I checked it yesterday morning, it was so full that it was almost right up to the tube. So, yes, it's.
And
getting-
that's
it's
the
getting a lot of
Dropbox
action.
out here?
Yes, the Dropbox out
And-
here.
And we're still collecting from the other one as well?
We are still collecting from the other, the volume has decreased, but we are still collecting there, yes.
Okay.
We are gonna be making some modifications to our Dropbox here to make, the letters, go into the Dropbox a little easier.
You mean they're getting stuck?
They're getting stuck.
Almost need one like a mailbox.
Right. We're also doing a redesign of the envelopes that we're going to have out here so that they're more like the envelopes that the customers are actually receiving in their bills, so that they actually go into the Dropbox a little bit easier also, so that they're not getting stuck.
How close are you to making a final selection on the new hires?
The candidate pool for the CSRs is very slim. We are waiting to hear back on some information, final information for the receptionist position right now,
And what's that job start out? What's it, entry salary?
which
For the customer service rep vacancy?
customer service, I believe, is nobody here from HR. I believe it's $13.50, something like that.
And we have problems finding people interested in taking that job.
Yes. There are a lot of different things that go into
Right.
the reason why we're having issues with that.
It's a hard job,
It is a hard
dealing
job.
with the public.
It is a hard job, yes.
Sure. Touchy subjects.
It is.
Sure.
You have to love it.
All right, that's an information item, so unless someone has any more questions for Monique, we can move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Number 12 is an action item. Consider approval of the standardized agreement for hosted PBX service. It's David Columbia. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This item is on page 71 of your board packet. Staff recommends the approval of a standardized agreement for hosted PBX service. In June, the board approved rates for the optional hosted PBX service. The business product specialist would use this agreement when establishing hosted PBX service with customers. Use of this standardized agreement would be similar to FPB's current business practices with respect to customers of Metro Ethernet and security services. The Assistant GM for Administration has reviewed the agreement and it meets with his approval. Be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the standardized agreement for hosted PBX service.
I second it.
Discussion. If no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. I hear no no's, so the motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. Here we go with Killer Tracks.
When it comes time, I'd like to make the motion on this one, Mr. Chairman, when it comes time. I've been
Some
waiting for this one.
imaginative person.
Yes.
Number 13 is an action item. Consider approval of renewal of a 5-year agreement with Killer Tracks for production music, which is used in the FPB-TV and the cable advertising video productions. Hi, Gary.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This is a renewal, as you mentioned, of a production music agreement with Killer Tracks. We've been using this since about 1999 when we started up our own in-house cable advertising department. Previously, it had been a 3-year term. This year, they came out with a new option with a lower price. If you went with a 5-year term, we have to have an additional rider on the agreement this year, since we're hoping soon to get into streaming some of our content via the internet. That requires some additional licensing for internet usage of the music. So by taking it to the 5-year term and with having to pay the additional costs for the internet usage, we were still able to mitigate some of that additional cost by extending it to the 5-year term. So this agreement is for a $15,000 contract, which would be payable in 5 payments of $3,000 annually on or before September 1st. And as I say, we use it in FPB-TV productions and all of our, pretty much all of our cable advertising production. So I request that you all consider that for approval.
How does this cost compare with just doing one-on-one agreements with ASCAP and BMI and CSAC?
We also have ASCAP agreements for, the cable company has that in general, but this is the actual music itself that we can use. That's it's specially produced for cable advertising, where it comes in multiple links. You get a 1-minute version, a 30-second version, a 15-second version, stingers. So it's specialized music for production purposes.
So then you use that to create an ad for someone?
Correct. That, or just any FPB-TV, like the program that they'll edit tonight, it usually has some music on the opening credits and ending credits. All that's production music that we have licensed as part of this package. And any advertising commercial and virtually everything we do on FPB-TV has music with it.
Are there other options beyond Killer Tracks?
There's certainly a lot of things out there. They've been very receptive to us, and another thing that they've added as an incentive this year to renew is they've opened up for the same cost their entire music library. In the past, we had limited a certain number of albums, which is several hundred, but now they've opened it up, so anything they have in their vast music library, which they continue to add, basically monthly we get a new notice, hey, this is new music available, go out there, and it's all downloadable now. It used to be we would get X number of CDs every year, and we'd have to rip the music off of that ourselves for use, but now everything's online, so our production staff just log in, type in the theme of the type of music they're looking for and some other keywords, and it helps focus down the mood and the tone, the tempo, things like that you're looking for, and it kind of leads you in the right direction, and you just play through clips and find the one you want and then download it and use it. It's pretty nice stuff. It's like I say, we've been using it for almost about 18 years now, and it's worked very well for us.
I move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. Discussion, folks. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, motion carries.
Thank you.
Number 14 is an action item. Consider approval of addendum to the master service agreement with Time Warner Cable Enterprises, LLC, Time Warner Cable Spectrum, for 10 gigabyte transport circuit lease in the annual amount of $57,600, and the Equinix data center Interconnects lease in the annual amount of $45,900. Well, I'm glad you're here to explain this to me, Casey.
Yeah.
Thank you. What this action item represents is actually 2 agreements, and we're asking for you to consider them in tandem, because doing one without the other, we won't be able to do anything with it. So one represents the actual transport that gets our connection from here to Chicago. The other one represents the space and power and those types of interconnects at the actual facility in Chicago. So this this link, this 10 gig link, will complement a link that you all approved last year, taking us to Ashburn, Virginia. And since that time, we've appeared with a number of large content providers, Netflix, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, and we are reaching about 50% capacity on that link now. And to make sure that we have additional capacity and redundancy, because if we lost that link to Ashburn, that all that traffic would try to then get rerouted to our internet links, where inevitably we would suffer some degradation. So we're anticipating continual growth, and adding this link to Chicago will take us probably 8 to 12 months to actually realize fully. Hopefully it'll be faster than that, but experience tells us it will take a while to get going. But that's it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Look to my colleague. Any questions? Okay. Okay, all right. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. Okay. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, motion carries. Okay, next item is number 15. This is also in Casey's. It's an action item. Consider approval of an upgrade agreement with CenturyLink Communications LLC, that's CenturyLink / Level 3, for Burstable internet bandwidth.
Burstable internet bandwidth. This action item refers to essentially an upgrade to our existing agreement with CenturyLink. We will be, or what we hope to do is to get into an updated agreement. It's going to be a cost savings for us for more bandwidth. So the new agreement, we're getting more for less, and we'll actually be able to make use of our 10 gig transport to Ashburn, and potentially the one going to Chicago, and pick up the CenturyLink connection in those locations and pull that back in, so that we've got redundancy on those links.
What does it mean that it's burstable?
So the burstable part of this is, so we're doing a 2 gigabit monthly commitment. So the 4250 is the minimum monthly that we would use. And the way we intend to use this for now is sort of as a pressure valve. So we will sort of self-cap it at the 2 gig, and then if we need the extra capacity, we can go up to the 5 gig. That's the burstable part. And then we just get billed on a 95th percentile sort of billing structure. And so the worst it would ever be per month is the 9350. But like I said, our intention is to keep it at the 2 gig unless we just absolutely had to have it.
I see. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, again, this is entirely out of my competence.
I'm good.
Can we? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second? I'll second it. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Batted 1,000 tonight, Charlie. Okay. Next two items have some similarities. They're action items, and I think they're Leanne's. Let's see. Okay. We'll take them separately as they're published. Action item, consider award of bid invitation number 1640. It's an annual price contract for distribution transformers to Brownstown Electric Supply Company. Okay.
Good evening. Most of Frankfort Plant Board's distribution transformers are purchased from an annual price contract. These transformers are kept in the inventory and need to be replenished periodically. Orders for transformers depend on new development and the replacement of bad transformers. Vendors bid with the understanding that they are locking in unit pricing for the year and not for a certain quantity of transformers. This year's bid invitation was sent to 8 vendors with 6 responses. After evaluating all bids, staff recommends awarding to Brownstown Electric Supply Company as they are the low bidder meeting specifications. The plant board has purchased approximately $59,000 from the previous contract, and the proposed contract reflects a 21.97% decrease in pricing.
I make a motion to accept bid invitation 1640.
Second.
Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no noes, motion carries. Next item is an action item. Consider award of bid invitation number 1641 for conductors to the Brownstown Electric Supply in the amount of $59,950 and Wesco distribution in the amount of $21,485.
Staff prepared a bid invitation for several types of conductors. The invitation was sent to 6 vendors with 6 responses received. After reviewing all bids, staff recommends awarding to Brownstown Electric Supply and Wesco Distribution as they are the lowest bids meeting specs. Language in the bid allows for the bid to be divided, and the award recommendations are items number 1 and 2 to Brownstown, the amount of $59,950, and items 3, 4, and 5 to Wesco in the amount of $21,485.10. And this material will be used to replenish inventory levels.
Make a motion to accept the bid invitation 1641.
I'll second that. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Leanne. Number 18 is an action item. Consider approving the community room rental agreement. Sharmesta will discuss this.
Good evening. During design of the administration building, we included this community room to serve as a multi-purpose room for board meetings and other general meetings, trainings, and for public use. So we formed a work group to review the original rental agreement for the clubhouse, because we plan on renting it similar to the way we did that's facility, and we modified it as...
Just passed out to the board was the rental agreement for the clubhouse.
Yeah, I apologize. I wanted to include that in the original board package just so you could compare the new and old, and I also emailed it to you on Friday, so hopefully you had a chance to look at it before this meeting. But I wanted to have that in front of you so you could compare. So we did form a work group. We just basically modified that agreement to apply to this community room, and I'll acknowledge the people in the work group here at the end of the presentation. So basically I can just go through the new rental agreement. It starts off with we're looking at a half day, 4 hours or less. We're also looking at all day rental on a weekday. And we're also looking at a weekend rate as well, basically all day Saturday or all day Sunday. And you can see the rates listed next to that. I'll hit the highlights under the rental rules and information. You know, as I said, they're basically the same as the clubhouse. We have a maximum occupancy of 90 people. We're going to keep our age requirement 21 years or older. I don't know if the clubhouse did, but we are under 24-hour surveillance here, so we wanted to at least inform the renters that we are recording everything at all times. The next two, D and E, can somewhat be combined, but we separated them just in case. But because this is a new facility, and probably for the first so many months, people are going to know how to use the facility. So we are telling them that they will be required to come during business hours to receive a tour. Right now, William Lynn and Kathy Lindsay will probably be the 2 lead persons on that. So whenever people do call to reserve the room, they'll come and present the facility. Right now, we're planning on people coming in through these 2 doors right here. And they'll have access to, obviously, this community room and the kitchen during normal business hours. And then we'll open up the facility to the terrace during after hours and the weekend as well. So as far as D, they'll come during business hours to receive their tour. And then if for some reason they need to come early for the tour, we're going to have access badges so they can actually enter these doors. And so people don't get lost over time. That's why we put the 48 hours. If you'll come 48 hours before your reservation, that's when we'll give you your badges as far as be able to access the facility. Next one is the weekday fee will apply from 7 to 4:30. And as I stated, we're going to have it conclude the community room and kitchen only. That keeps people from being able to get into the employee side of the building during business hours if we limit them to this side of the space. Let's see. Like I said, I'll try to go through this quickly. I know you've had a chance to read it. We're considering weekday fee, or I'm sorry, the time that outdoor terrace will be available will be on the weekdays after 4:30 and on the weekends as well. The rest of that's pretty straightforward, standard stuff that you see at most facilities as far as damage to the area, candles, etc. No portable grills, no smoking inside the building or on the terrace. We are going to supply the tables and chairs. During the tour, we'll find out exactly what their needs are as far as chairs and tables, and we'll work with them to make sure these are available. Obviously, tables are on wheels, chairs are stackable, so we'll make that available for them. As far as the projector, we are limiting that during business hours only. It's a little bit more complex, so our IT staff will be here. Someone will be here until 4:30 every day, so we are going to make that projector and any type of presentation needs that they may have, we'll make that available during business hours. This is something we took from the previous, the clubhouse. Community room cannot be rented more than 12 months in advance. I think in the past, people were taking advantage of that and renting like year after year after year, holding the space. So I think previous boards decided to keep it at 12 months in advance. And that's really there. Security deposit used to be $250. We did lower it to $150. We're trying to be aware of costs and keep this as reasonable as possible for the public. Let's see. The rest of this is pretty standard. I pretty much copied it from the original clubhouse agreement. We, obviously will waive any cancellation fees and refund any money if there's an event of emergency. On page 121 in your board package, we're basically saying we request that any event ends by 11 o'clock p.m. And it's really pretty straightforward on here. Let me see what else we have here. I'll go back to the actual agenda item. We are only looking at this as cost recovery. We're not trying to make any money off of this. So working with accounting and support services, we just tried to estimate what we thought the cleaning time would be. A 4-hour event, we're assuming less cleaning time, probably not going to be as much food, and just assuming it's not going to be messy. We're trying to come up with a reasonable estimate for an all-day weekend rate. We're assuming there's going to be more involved, so we assumed a few more hours of cleaning. During weekdays, we assumed regular time rates. During the weekend, we're assuming some overtime rates. So that's where you go. You've got your $100 from a half day to $150 for an all day on a weekday to $200 on the weekend. In addition, during the tour, we are going to have a pre and post walkthrough checklist, because with the new facility, there's a lot of things in here. So we will have, like I said, we'll have walkthroughs with the renter as well. That pretty much covers it all. It's pretty standard rental agreement. I think our prices, if you look at the other venues in there, it's pretty competitive. I think we'll be one of the lowest places to rent in town if the board just chooses to go this route. And be happy to answer any. Oh, and I want to acknowledge my work group, please, as well. Jennifer Hellard in accounting, our public information coordinator, Kathy Lindsay, customer service, Deborah Fowler, support services, Jeremy Richardson, security, we had Adam Hellard, Andrew Sullivan, and Travis Fitzgerald. And administration-wise, William Lynn, and I have to thank William very, very much, because he's just took the lead on this. He put all the paperwork together, the checklist together, the rental agreement you're looking at. He worked on that, and also thanks to Hans as well. He did the final review as far as the rental requirements and the indemnification and so forth. So thank you to everybody for their assistance.
Is this the increase in the cost of the clubhouse rental?
No, it's less than the clubhouse.
Than last year?
Yeah, the clubhouse was for a weekday rate. We've changed the hours a little bit. It used to be 9 to 2 during the weekday. I'm not sure. I wasn't involved with this original agreement, but we thought, well, typically there might be a morning meet or an afternoon meeting, so that's where we came up with the 4 hours or less, and that would have been $100. And even for the all-day rate on a weekday, it's $150. So either way, we're still less than what the clubhouse used to be.
Sure, under R it says nonprofit organizations must provide appropriate documentation. What does that mean?
I'm going to have to refer that one to Hans. He added that into the agreement.
The nonprofit is for the as far as adding, your money, your rates and so forth, plus the taxation and so on. It's basically came out of, looked over some of the other agreements, the indemnification, I'm trying to think where that came out. The indemnification and that came out of transportation cabinet agreement. I guess the transportation cabinet has a room somewhere that they rent, and the stuff about the candles came out of the transportation cabinet agreement
Now,
as well. So they're
we're going to have the same rates for whether it's profit or non-profit, right?
I knew that question was going to come up, and actually I was doing some research on another project, and I came across a 2010 board discussion, and they were doing the same thing when they were coming up with these rates for the clubhouse. And they mentioned if you go with giving a lower rate to a nonprofit, then they assume that that's going to be most of the rentals, and then we're not getting any type of cost recovery because we still have our cleaning fees.
Okay.
We still have administration costs as far as reserving the room and so forth. So with this being strictly cost recovery, we were keeping the same rate across any agency, nonprofit, and employees as well. We would all have the same rate because, like I said, we're not trying to make any money off of
I
this.
think that's good reasoning. I think
So,
it's,
so the only break that nonprofit would get hands would be sales tax? Is there sales tax on the room? So when you say they're nonprofit status, does being nonprofit have any financial advantage to the group renting at all?
the tax is along is the renting it for the profit motive on the room for the tax exempt on the building.
Okay, for our purposes, okay.
For our
Okay, gotcha, okay. Okay.
So the financing aspect.
Yeah.
But we can, I can go back and look at the transportation cabinet agreement again, if you'd like to do something different.
No, I was just following up on Ralph's question about a nonprofit coming in, there's no, by
Different
certifying
rate.
their nonprofit, that doesn't
A different
change any of their
rate.
financial cost of the facility though.
Well, that's what we're recommending.
Right.
We're recommending that.
well, obviously, y'all put a lot of thought in this. Of course, it's not set in concrete because as things evolve, we'll have experience, and if we need to make some amendments, changes, we can do it.
Yeah.
And along that lines, we'll assume we'll be tracking all of our actual costs associated with it, so we can maybe revisit it in 6 months and see where that pricing and actual recovery cost comes from.
I'm sure we can do that. Work with accounting on that, yes.
Okay, do we have a motion? I'll do it. I move that we approve the submitted community room rental agreement.
Second.
Discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's. Motion carries. Number 19, this also sure missed us. It's to consider approval of a revised change order number 7 for the admin building for the addition of 24,958. However, we're not being asked to add an additional 24,958. As Sharmista will explain here in a moment.
Yes, unfortunately, I have to come back with another change order, which I didn't want to do. But in May, if you recall, in May of 2017, the board approved change order 7 with Marilla Design and Construction. Once the numbers started getting put together and the payment applications came in, GRW had inadvertently put a wrong amount for one of the items, and that is item number 8, the terrace paver adjustment. That value, we had it in as $1,917 when I brought it to you the first time. It actually should have been $2,429, so we were $512 less than what we actually owed the contractor. So basically, we just revised that number to reflect the correct value, and I'm asking for the board to approve the revised change order number 7.
I move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, the motion carries. Thank you, Sharmista. All right. Number 20 is an action item. Consider approval of financial disclosure form. This is John and Hans.
A financial disclosure form that was used by the Executive Branch Ethics Commission that we have modified for our purposes. This is a related item to the next item with the Ethics Committee. And basically, the form kind of asks that the members of senior management, the board, and those involved in procurement pledge that they have no financial interest, basically nothing to gain from a recommendation made to the plan board. For instance, if I owned a lawn mowing business, I would have to disclose that, or if that business was bidding on work to mow the grass out here at the administration building property, for example. The form is pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. Basically, do you have any financial interest? Do your spouse or adult children, have any financial gain from a recommendation that you make to the plant board? I'd recommend approval of the form. Mr. Keybine, can I add what he?
Mr. Chairman, I think the state ethics form is like 4 pages. It gets into like where you bank and all those things. This is just very straightforward. It's just basically saying, in your official duties here, have you got interest in anything that the plant board is doing business with? It's not looking for anything you do outside of plant board business, but it's focusing on that. So, like I said, Hans took the markup from the state form, and this is just a very simplified 1 page. It would be a public record.
Yes, sir.
But I think it's kind of thing that since we're going to be dealing with the Ethics Commission on the next item also, it's kind of thing, I think from a public standpoint, I think it's a good policy to have. So I would move that we approve it.
I agree. I think, the auditors, they'll call the board members and ask us.
Yes.
Matter of due course of doing their audits. All right, do we have a motion, actually?
I made a second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, next item. Appoint 3 people from the applicant pool to an ethics committee. See Mr. Price will discuss this.
This was one of the recommendations that was made by our auditors, and David Denton had created a policy earlier this year. The board solicited names. We had several very, very well qualified applicants put their names in. Mr. Liebman and I reviewed those for potential incompatible offices, and the final folks are listed in the item there. Those several names. A couple of things that the board would want to consider when selecting these folks. The committee is 3 members. You have a 3-member committee, and so the policy notes the terms of the members shall be staggered and no longer than 3 years. And some of the folks in their application materials, Mr. Ted Collins indicated that he could serve a 1, 2, or 3-year term. Mr. Steve Reeder noted he would prefer a 3-year term but would consider a lesser term. And all other applicants there indicated no term preference. So the board can handle this how they would like to elect those members. I know in the past Mr. Liebman has held elections, for example, for board officers. So maybe the board like to hold it, select these folks in the same manner.
As I understand it, Hans, these people will serve without compensation. They don't have to. They meet as needed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
They don't have to meet quarterly or monthly. They meet if there's a complaint or an issue that's brought up.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Staff support would be James, I assume.
Yes,
if they
sir.
need legal.
James and staff, and
Yeah.
whatever help they would need, we would provide.
And then do we appoint a chairman, or do they elect their own chairman?
That I would have to look in the policy. Let me see. It doesn't note. I don't see. So I would. That's an open question. So the board could determine that as well.
Probably.
I would think that they would appoint their own commission, own chairman. I would think it'd be logical.
There are only 3 of them.
Yeah, there's only 3.
Somebody's got to do it.
Well, I guess I would make a motion that we appoint Jill Lemaster, Paula Moore, and Stephen Reeder to our ethics committee. And I guess based on the terms, Stephen would be the 3-year. And I guess, do we have any preference? How do we pick between the first two for the staggered terms of 1 and 2?
I guess the board could select those folks could, they indicated no preference, so the board could appoint, make the offer, and see what they would like to do.
I think that's reasonable.
So,
and then I guess the other option would be we made the decision to let them elect their own chair.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I second the motion.
Who would you like for the 2-year and the 1 year?
Well, if, I guess just based on the responses we got, Mr. Reeder suggested a preference for 3, and the other 2 had no preference.
So they could pick, they could decide it amongst
Maybe we
themselves.
let's put the question to all 3 of them and just see what numbers we get back.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item is number 22. It's an action item. Appoint representative or representatives to the KyMEA. Mr. Bannister will discuss.
Since the KyMEA's inception, I've been serving as an alternate director for the KyMEA, and their bylaws specify that members may have a director and an alternate, and so we are recommending that a director and an alternate be appointed. I'm willing to serve, to continue serving. So the board needs to appoint a director and an alternate director. And if the board wishes new membership on the KyMEA, that's fine too. It's the board's pleasure.
I move, Mr. Chairman, that Hervey be the representative on the KyMEA board and Hans be his alternate. Because I think, Hans, you attend all the meetings?
Yes, sir.
So you're there already, and that you be the backup?
Yes,
or
sir.
the alternate, or?
So I can do that. Yes, sir.
Second.
Discussion? Very good. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, that's very good. Okay, next item is agenda item number 23. It's an action item. Consider KyMEA confidentiality policy. Let's see, Mr. Lee.
Yes, sir. Members of the board, let me just correct one thing that it says there in the executive digest for this item. It says that Mr. Musson, who's of course KyMEA's attorney, and Mr. Liebman have been working to develop a global NDA. I did not participate in the development of this policy by KyMEA, which I didn't need to, but I just want that to be clear and have that executive digest corrected. Mr. Musson came, this has been an ongoing discussion. Mr. Musson was here for our last meeting and said that KyMEA would be addressing this issue at their following meeting, which they did. He also confirmed our concern that before that change to the KyMEA policy, each and every time any member of this board wanted to receive some information from KyMEA, they would have to do a separate NDA, non-disclosure agreement. KyMEA has now changed that policy. They've adopted the policy that the members have a copy of, and they've also drafted a version of that. It's essentially the same thing that they are asking this board to approve. The only thing I would say in terms of comment, I've questioned from the start why any of this is necessary. The FPB is one of the founding members of KyMEA. KYMEA continues to believe that this is necessary. The benefit of adopting the policy that they have drafted would basically put an end to all this. We wouldn't have to do any more NDAs, so it's just a matter of how this board wants to proceed. That's basically the two sides of it.
So to sum that up, essentially, they've now agreed that there is a policy that the information is there and you signed a confidential agreement and you're all set? Or-
If they are in agreement that if this board adopts the policy that they have drafted, which the board members have, this matter would be put to rest and this board could freely receive what's asked for.
And, you know,
for the future.
And to reiterate, you know, James's comment earlier from our conversations, it seems unnecessary. And as the discussion was
Right.
from KYMEA last summer, we're party to any contract they signed by virtue of being a member of the organization.
Right.
I will add just one other comment, and again, it's purely up to the board as to how they wish to proceed. If the policy is not adopted, we basically be back to an impasse.
Right.
And the board would not immediately, but have to decide on some alternate path. Needs to be resolved one way or the other.
Herbie, what, as an alternate member and Dan as the primary member to the KYMEA, what confidentiality policies did they have you guys signed when you came on the board?
We've researched our records, and we don't find where we've signed an NDA.
I see.
There was an email that I think, James, you might
Yeah,
forwarded on you from their attorney.
That's accurate.
I see.
That's accurate. What Mr. Bannister said is completely accurate.
Well, I guess I'm still in the same place as, you know, Vint and Herbie have been our representatives. They're party to those agreements by being members and by them being proxy to this policy body. I feel like we're party to those contracts as well.
I agree with that. KYMEA feels otherwise. So that, hence the impasse.
Yeah.
So as of this point, I guess Herbie, have you and Vint been getting the information all along? I mean, you're getting everything as members of the KyMEA board, but we can't get it as members of this board, and FPB can't get it, only you two because of sitting on the board?
But the distinction up through now has been members of this board have requested information that was not presented at a regular KYMEA meeting.
But if Herbie or Vint were sitting in a meeting with KyMEA and asked for that same information, by virtue of sitting on that board, would they have gotten it?
I don't know that that's come up, so I don't know what the answer is. That's a good question.
Yeah. But I assume all the documents we've asked, you guys have reviewed, and I mean, all the PPAs and all those documents have been in the meetings you guys have attended, right?
Yeah, all the documents we have were covered in meetings that we were a part of. Yes.
Yeah, and this board has received some of those documents. This impasse arose when we asked for, a member of this board asked for something that had not come up on a regular KYMEA meeting.
What would be the negative effect in considering this policy?
I don't know that there is one.
I don't either.
Well, I guess two things occur to me. One, it's a highly unusual NDA. It sets out terms that are atypical, and two, it effectively makes us a second-class citizen in the organization. You know, we're either party to the contracts as it was explained to us last summer, or we're not, and there's a bigger discussion there if we're not.
I mean, I definitely like the idea of us having a policy dealing with this as opposed to signing an NDA all the time and going back and forth. I mean, I think a blanket policy, which is so, I mean, you know, as board members we're seeing confidential information, whether it's on employee information or contracts or bids. So we've got the burden on the confidentiality already, or you know, ratepayers' accounts or anything else. I mean, it's all confidential. Vin, have you and Herbie ever been asked to sign any documents there on the KyMEA board?
Pertaining to non-disclosure?
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of. the explanation I think I saw from the email was as it was inherent to our duties as
Right.
board members that we were covered for. So I think my understanding with this was it tied up all the loose ends and any questions you might have. Again, I think the bigger thing to think of may be the whole purpose for the NDAs are to protect both organizations from lawsuits from counterparties that may think things were disclosed, and so that was my take on that.
I mean,
Well, I'd be more comfortable with the policy than not having a policy.
Do we have, Hans, do we have a standard policy that's adopted, it's in the FPB employee handbook or noted anyplace? Is there a standard employee confidentiality discussion?
For the plant board, I've not seen any type of formal policy that the board's adopted for the directors or for employees. That's not to say that, for example, your folks working in the security department would be, just as part of their job. Job duties would be, you don't disclose, people's codes and
Sure.
CSRs don't talk about customers' private information, that type of thing. I think this relates more to what Vint was talking about with, it's not necessarily KyMEA, it's KyMEA's power providers that when they disclose this information to KyMEA, it's the power provider up here that says, we want some type of an agreement, we want some type of an assurance that this information, this power supply deal or this procurement deal that we're offering KyMEA doesn't get distributed any further. And I think that's what this addresses. I don't know that it's so much KyMEA, like you said, we're one of the founding members of KyMEA, of course. It's not us or the plant board. It's the folks up here, the power suppliers, and that say, we're not going to give you this unless you agree to these terms.
Sure, but I mean,
so that's part of it.
and for that same reason, KyMEA as an organization signs, those NDAs with those individual power providers, and then the folks that are members of KyMEA are a party to those agreements by virtue of having membership in that organization. No different than if you work for a company and the company signed an NDA as an employee of that company, you would be bound by that NDA agreement.
Yeah, as part of your job,
Right.
part of your job duties, you have to keep that quiet.
Right.
Not disclose that material.
I don't see where this policy hurts us or is a negative.
Well, doesn't it slow down the transmission of information? If you have to sign another NDA each time you ask for something?
Well, you wouldn't have to do that
You wouldn't?
Policy wouldn't have to.
anymore.
Oh, I see.
If the board sees, and I'm not taking a position, but if the board adopts this policy, that would be.
But it does
done.
provide provisions for them to restrict
Oh.
board members, individual board members' access to data. And then again, it sets that second-class citizen nature of the member. And I guess of just us as a member, not of any of the other members. And again, it's counter to the presentation we were given originally when we were provided the BPAs.
Hans, James, let me ask this. You all reviewed this and taken a look at it from your standpoint. I mean, it seems like it would make sense for FPB to have a blanket confidentiality policy. And Walt's expressed concern that there's a provision in there basically that could restrict our access. Is there anything that would stop us from adopting a confidentiality policy with the major tenets of this agreement, striking the part where it would restrict our information? We all have the same access that any other cities has, and that people sitting on the KyMEA board had. I mean, we ought to have that same access. And then basically send that back to KyMEA and said, here's our policy, and saying we've adopted this policy. And
I think the policy that they've provided, we could incorporate whatever changes the board would like, but I think the policy would permit the board to access this information. I don't know that we can talk about changes if you'd like, but
I think it's interesting. I mean, clearly, if we, the board, want to see something, and Herbie's sitting on the KyMEA board and he sees it, Herbie shouldn't be put in a position to tell us we can't see it. I mean, if Herbie can see it, he ought to be able to bring it back to show it to us. And we ought to be in the same restrictions that Herbie is when he gets it on the KyMEA board. I mean, if Herbie's got it, we ought to be able to see it, or, I mean, I would think.
This is from KyMEA's attorney. This is from Mr. Musson to Mr. Liebman, and this is why I had prepared the agenda item. So that's why I thought you were working with them, going back and forth. I'd seen this email flying around, but it notes, it says attached is the revised KyMEA confidential information policy, KyMEA's policy, and a proposed FPB policy. And then it notes if FPB adopts the proposed policy at its next board meeting, the information you're holding may be released to the board. So I don't know that we would need to, we can talk about whatever revisions the board would like.
I mean, is there, so to address Walt's concern, or is there anything in there that restricts, that would allow KyMEA to restrict our access to information?
This notes, I mean, you can get the information, so.
But they can preclude, the board members can be precluded based on decisions by staff or decisions by the board.
Which section?
I don't have it, it's on your packet.
I didn't know what you were
kind of moving in another direction, James, I think you and I are on the same page with the redundancy of the discussion of the policy. What are our administrative remedies inside the construct of the interlocal agreement?
Yeah.
Do we file a formal notice to them that we have a disagreement here?
That's something we would have to look at. And the question that came up a minute ago, this board could adopt any policy that it sees fit, which is different from the proposed one from KyMEA, submit that to KyMEA and see if it resolves the impasse, but this board wouldn't have any guarantee of that. We could also pursue what you just mentioned.
I guess my thought is we send them a letter saying we intend to pursue administrative action to resolve it, and then we see where that gets us.
That's one option this board could choose to take.
Let's move on. So let me make a motion that we consider the KyMEA confidential policy.
I'll second it. We'll take this by member. Discussion first. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, let's just to be completely clear, the motion, I just want to be sure, the motion should be whether for this board to adopt the policy that KyMEA has suggested in writing.
And to clarify
I think that's
that,
what the motion is.
To adopt.
and that policy is that board members of KyMEA can have information that the board of the Frankfort Plant Board cannot have.
And consultants. So the consultants aren't bound by any additional restrictions, nor are the board members bound by any additional restrictions, but for assigning extra. This all speaks to that ability to assign risk. And, we're signing away more and more of our ability to control policy. And this is yet another step away from our ability for self-determination.
I don't know that I agree with that, but in any event, we've got any more discussion. We've got, we'll take this by member. Vote yes is to adopt the KyMEA confidentiality policy. A vote no would be to not adopt it.
Member Keybine?
No.
Member Baldwin?
No.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Rosen?
No.
Member Ludwig?
Yes. Okay.
I'd like to make a second motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes, this motion has failed. Okay.
Because I clearly think we need to get past the impasse because there's information we need, and I don't think we want to get in to avoid. I mean, we've already had this on the table for a while.
That's right.
I would like to request that Mr. Price and Mr. Liebman prepare correspondence to KyMEA and to develop a policy for this board to consider, which addresses overall agency confidentiality as part of the policy and the major tenets of what KyMEA is asking for here to protect the data. Because, I mean, they do have a responsibility, I think we understand that, but that in our draft policy, we basically assure ourselves the same access that Herbie or Hans or anybody would get as a member of the KyMEA board, and that can't be restricted that we have to abide by those policies.
And would this be a policy specifically towards KYMEA, or would this be a blanket policy?
I think it'd be a blanket policy for the whole
organization?
agency. And included in there, it could certainly reference KyMEA or its successor or any other
just
power provider or any other
organizations.
contractor or whatever. And I think we ought to be very upfront with KyMEA and say, we understand what they're trying to do. We want the access. We want to get past this. But we think we need to address those couple of concerns and let them know where we're at. Because I think it's part of the process before we necessarily get into a grievance or whatever, we ought to give them one more shot to say, look, we got concerns. Here's a reasonable policy. Are you telling us there's no way you can consider this for us? And if they say, nope, that's it, then I think in good faith, we've tried to go both ways with it. So I move that'd be a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay, next item is, moving right along. It's an action item. Consider an employee grievance from Alex Cheak, Water Distribution Operator 1. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Alex, let's let Diane introduce the item.
Diane, let me jump in, let me go first if that's okay, just so we're clear. This is not something the board is called on to do very often, so just so everybody's clear. This is a hearing, and Mr. Cheek, you don't know me, I'm James Liebman, I'm outside attorney for the board. This is a hearing on a grievance filed by an employee. Mr. Cheek and all employees have the right under the FPB policies to do this, and he has followed the appropriate channels to bring this matter to the board's attention tonight. It's an appeal or a grievance from a decision made by the general manager in regard to a particular employee. The board will, of course, we're going to hear from, the board will hear from Ms. Schneider. We'll absolutely hear from Mr. Cheek. The board, I believe, has all of the information that has previously been submitted. Mr. Cheek, just so you're aware of that, the board members have all of the emails that were generated discussing your situation, and which includes what you had previously submitted. So, and you can certainly repeat any of that you care to, but just so you know that the board has that information. And the board can certainly ask questions of Mr. Cheek and of course of Diane. The board will have options once everything has been said that needs to be said. For one thing, the board does not have to make an immediate decision. The board certainly can if they wish to do that. If individual members want more time to consider the matter and what has been said and what's been submitted, the board could certainly do that. If the board wants to deliberate as a group after tonight, of course, that's got to be a meeting and an open session. You do have that option, but that would be the parameters of it. The options that the board has in making its decision are to affirm the decision of the general manager, to reverse that decision and institute a remedy that the board feels is appropriate, or to remand, send the matter back to the general manager with instructions as to what the board would like to have the general manager do. So anybody have any questions about the general procedure? This is not something that comes before the board very often. Okay. All right, Diane, please.
The board approved the reclassification of the water distribution operator 1 position in April of this year. There were 2 employees in the position, one of them being Mr. Cheek. Pursuant to our policy, he received a 5% increase with the reclassification. He filed a grievance, and the board received a copy on June 8th. Since then, staff contacted our compensation consultant to ask his opinion on the grievance, and his response is included in the board package. It's on page 207, I believe. It's attachment S. I'm in agreement with our consultant and the staff attorney that we should follow our policy. Otherwise, it creates the potential for other employees whose position has been reclassified to also have a complaint or a grievance concerning their reclassification. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone on the board have any questions for Diane? All right, Mr. Cheek, it's your turn. Please say anything to the board that you wish to.
All right. Hello, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Alex Cheak. Thank you for your time regarding this matter. Here are some pictures that I gave you all that were recently posted on the plant board social media site, as well as your weekly board report. This is what I do on a regular basis, whether it's 90 degrees, 10 degrees. I give the plant board 110%, and all I asked was to be, treated fairly. In this case, I felt the policy was applied unfairly. Over the past 2 years that I've been here. Last year we had, I believe it was 3 people retire. Well, we also had 1 employee that left. And over the past year, we've pretty much been 4 employees short. So we've been shorthanded, as you know. And, I feel like that I personally have stepped up. I run my own service truck pretty much with an assistant. And, I come to work every day. I think in the past year I've missed, I think 2.5 vacation days and no sick time. So that's just, that's pretty much all I have regarding the matter, as, for what my letter was as well. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody on the board have questions of Mr. Cheek?
I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, if it's, I've read through the file, and when I first read it, the first thing I did, I was in state government 30 plus years, so I went and looked at what state government's policy is, which is identical to what our policy is. Right. And I clearly all your Vint, Alan, everybody, every one of your recommendations, everything is nothing but that you're an outstanding employee and a very, very good employee. There is from reading your file, there is no disagreement on that whatsoever. And I can understand your frustration. There was a grade change made, which was warranted, which meant that you had 2.5 years, or 2 years plus, and you got to go to the new minimum of the new grade. But that an employee coming in the same day, brand new, was going to make the same as you, which meant your 2 years of service, even though you'd been working 2 years and you'd gotten salary increases those 2, all of a sudden from a salary standpoint, you're starting out even again.
Right.
And I can understand why that's frustration, and that happens in grade changes, especially with lower tenure employees when they're, from what I understand, and I want to let you know that as far as everything I've been able to find out, I think we've explored whether it be possible, could we just change the policy? Right. It's very hard to do something just for you without changing the policy.
Yes,
and then the question goes into, how do we change it? Do we go back and change it to people that are within like 5% of the grade, within 2% of the grade, picking something, and then you have to apply that policy, and then would we apply it retroactive? Right. But I think, Ms. Snyder did look at, actually, not just was our policy applied correctly, but could we change the policy for you? And we could, but it wouldn't be just for you. It'd have to be a broader thing. And as I also understand, I don't think your 2 years of service are unrecognized, because I understand you are eligible based on your tenure and experience to move up. Is that correct?
Yes, I actually submitted my paperwork. Actually, Brian submitted my paperwork Monday for my Class 2 operator license, and I will be attending that at the end of at the end of August. Sorry.
So basically, that is kind of offsetting in that your 2 years will mean something then,
Right.
because that gets you another salary bump.
Right. But I think what I was basing my letter upon was, over the past 2 years, we receive based on performance evaluations. Right. We receive 2%
right.
every 6 months. Well, I've worked really hard over the past 2 years to earn my 2%. Mm-hmm. And then when they made the grade change, when they made the grade change like they did, it pretty much just threw all my 2% out the window, and I'm starting even with the new guy. And on top of that, I'm responsible for training one of the new guys to be on the service trip. So I will have a brand new guy that knows nothing about what we do. So.
And I can just tell you and I can't speak for the other board member, when I first read the file, when I looked at it, my first reaction was, we got to do something for him.
Right.
I mean, but in looking at it, I've done it, and I've asked Diane if she, looking at it, see, is there anything we could do without revamping the policy and then going back without doing it, and it just doesn't seem like there's a feasible way to do it. And I can understand your frustration, and if there was a nice, I don't want to say a simple way, if there was a way to change the policy and recognize your situation and not reopen other personnel things, I can tell you, and I'd be the first one. I don't see how we can get there. I'll be honest. If someone can show me how to get there, I'd be for it. I just don't see how we can get there. That's my biggest concern, is we can't just fix your situation then go back to the old policy. We need to fix it for everybody. And then do we go back retroactive? Do we go forward? I don't know. It's a tough one. And like I said, I don't think it's a matter of anybody not wanting to give you the money. You've earned it. There's no question about it. And your services, your tenure, you've done a great job, and I don't know what's going to happen on your classification, but everybody says you do a great job. And obviously your pictures show that you do a pretty darn good job every day. So that's my only question, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how to fix it.
Well, you just reviewed everything that I've been through all this, and I agree entirely with everything you said. And I'm sure he has a bright future with the plant bar, really does. But you understand, Mr. Cheek, that the board is in a really difficult situation tonight, because if we stray from this basic compensation plan structure we've got now, if we do that for you tonight, we're going to have this thrown back at us. It's going to be we can't do it for one without doing it for the next one and the next one and the next one. So we're always reviewing the equity of our plans, and we're not forgetting this. We'll be thinking about this in the future going forward, but I can't break the plan tonight. That's what I'm afraid to do. I don't want to set a precedent tonight that's going to be.
I don't mind breaking it. I just don't know how to put it back together.
But we break it, and then we're left with.
But moving on to the next level, the level 2, that's based on your experience working.
That recognizes his 2 years tenure.
Right.
Yes.
And so that moves on, and
then he'll move to another grade. I assume is it 1 grade or 2 grade?
I will, if I pass my tests at the end of August, I will move to Operator 2, which is a reclassification. And then in 2 more years, I'll be eligible for my Operator 3, which if I pass that, I'll move on. And then in 2 more years, I'll be eligible for my Operator 4, which then I will step up 1 other grade, and then Operator 4 is as high as you can go.
Okay.
If Diane, when he moves up, he gets reclassified to the Operator 2, does that take him to the entry of the new grade, or would he go?
He would receive a 10% increase based on his current salary.
Based on his current salary, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Cheek, you've heard some comments from the board members. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest, I want to say, issue was, as you all know, I've worked hard for my 2%, but I think one thing I really didn't understand is how, I get a 5% increase just to be able to barely meet the new minimum start. But, a guy that's been there 2 or 3 months received a 9% increase that put him right at my back door, and that's what my issue was, and as well as that, I think I know for sure in the past year and a half, I've missed maybe like 2 main breaks, and I'm talking, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I worked one that I worked, we received a call at 3:30 in the afternoon. We leave work at 3:45, and I've worked them all night. I mean,
But correct me if I'm wrong, the person you said got a 9%, he's got what, about a year service?
No, sir. He was still on his 6-month probation whenever he received his 9%.
But you'll get to go, you're 2 years ahead of him.
Right.
In terms of getting to go to water operator 2.
Well,
roughly a year and a half?
No, because he has already had some time with a water company outside of us.
So he gets credit for that service in terms of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's actually supposed to be going to operator 2 with me.
Okay.
He will not be eligible for his 10% until he has 2 years of service with the plant board.
Okay.
But he will be eligible to go receive his operator 2 classification with me at the end of August.
Okay.
Diane, did you want to add anything or clarify anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Or any other questions the board wishes to ask Mr. Cheek?
And also too, sorry.
It's a hard case to,
Also too, the employee receiving the class operator 2 he's not the assistant on the truck. The assistant on my truck is an employee that we hired that started yesterday, and he has no experience whatsoever with, what we do. So
He's making the same as you, right?
yeah. So
I think that board's heard from Mr. Cheek and from Diane, made comments and had questions answered, so it's up to the board at this point as to how the board wishes to proceed.
well, the issue tonight, actually, the technical issue tonight is whether or not we uphold the general manager's decision on this. Do we have a motion?
Well, unfortunate for Mr. Cheek, we have just completed a compensation plan that the board has approved, and I can't see any way that we can deviate from the plan that we have, irregardless of how hard you work or how many hours you put in. It's kind of makes our hands tied into what we can actually do for you.
Somewhat unusual fact circumstance that's come about here. I mean, do we have a motion?
I guess I'd move, Mr. Chairman, as much as I hate to, because I want to thank Mr. Cheek. I mean, but I'd have to move that we affirm the general manager's report, simply because I don't see a way. I'd be all for changing the policy if there was a clean way to fix it and do something for Mr. Cheek, but I don't know what we're opening when we do it, so I'd have to move to affirm the policy as much as I hate to.
I'll second that. Okay. Discussion. Members? Call this by director. A vote yes is to affirm the GM's decision on this case. Vote no would be to not affirm the general manager.
Member Cuban?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Lake?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chief.
I'd like to say thank you for bringing this issue to our attention. I'm glad the board gets to see some of our employees and how professional you conduct yourself. And everybody in this room supports you 100%. And just thank you for the way you conducted yourself, and know that, you know, we're 100% trying to help you any way we can. Thank you.
Okay, let's see, where are we? We're skipping, or rather, number 25 is an information item, and staff has requested that we table this till the August meeting for study. Or rather, for study purposes, to transfer this or continue this to the August agenda. I want to do that. Number 6 is an information item, report on open meetings and board member discussion, miscellaneous issue here. Says Hance Price will discuss.
I have prepared a memo. Last month, Mr. Cubine requested some guidance regarding board member discussions. I prepared a memo. The memo is largely based on an Attorney General's guidebook to the Open Meetings, Open Records Act. It's pretty good. But in short, 2 board members can get together, have lunch, and talk about business, talk about plant board issues. Members can be, say, 3 members, say a quorum could be at a party, so long as there's no discussion of public business. A public meeting is basically a quorum, 3 people, 3 members in this case, plus a discussion of public business. So you could be at a dinner party, for example, 3 people, and no discussion of public business. There's no public meeting. 2 board members by themselves can get together and talk about issues, try to educate themselves. No problem with that, so long as these 2-member meetings are not an attempt to circumvent the requirements of the act. Then everything's all well, all's good. So, if anybody has any questions about the memo.
What if 4 members were at a party but didn't talk about plant board things? You mentioned 3.
3 is a quorum. 4
Okay.
people, you would have a quorum there.
Okay.
So you would have a quorum present. But as long as there's no discussion
Okay.
of business taking place, there's no public meeting.
I see, okay.
Just follow hands, for example, you mentioned, like, say the city recently had that meeting about the fate of the
Convention center.
convention center, and say 5 of us went down. We all wanted to hear it. We all didn't talk about anything, but all attended the public meeting that was open. Would that be allowable, as long as there's no discussion of?
Yes, I think that's permissible, because this board is not taking up that issue.
Okay.
Excuse me, you're just there to listen.
Well, what if you participated? What if you start asking questions when you're there? Is that cross the line?
But it's not Frankfort Plant Board.
Meeting, but we start, if all members are there and we start to ask questions, would that change the?
It depends.
If you're participating just as a citizen, it wouldn't be an issue. If you participate, on something that this board is involved with, then it would get pretty murky.
Okay.
We'd want to think about that.
Okay, so basically we still have our rights as citizens.
Yes,
like
sir.
everybody else does.
You don't give that up just by serving on the
Okay.
board.
Okay. Okay, that was just information. I guess we're down to old new business. I understand there might be some.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll be glad to let you do this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Payback time.
Yeah, I earned that one. Back in 2014, FPB conducted a cable telecom survey to gauge customer interest in the possibility of dropping some of our duplicate broadcast networks from Lexington and Louisville. The staff and the board found the results of that survey helpful. And so staff planned to conduct another survey this year in advance of those retransmission consent agreements expiration toward the end of the year. At the April meeting, Harvey presented a skinny bundle options to you folks, and at that meeting we were asked if maybe we combine some skinny bundle questions along with the retransmission consent. And at one of the budget meetings, and to be honest with you, I can't remember which one it is, the 6th or the 7th, Mr. Cubine asked if we would consider also adding a question gauging public interest in renting the FPB clubhouse down the road. So per the procurement policy, staff received the 3 quotes on the survey. Matrix Group Lexington proposes to include online submissions in addition to the phone calls in their methodology to help us improve the accuracy of our results. As they went through our 2014 survey, they thought by adding the online component that we would maybe kind of balance it out a little bit more than we had just using telephone calls the last time around. So this survey was included in the fiscal year budget in the 2018 budget, and it's on page 53 at $12,000. This is staff recommends approval of the agreement with Matrix Group for $11,850. I want to also bring to your attention at the survey timeline. The shot clock part of it for staff is that this information, this feedback we get from our customers is really important to get as close to the end of September, beginning of October as we can. The FCC rule as part of the 1992 Cable Act says that Lexington and Louisville broadcast stations have to contact us, send us a letter asking for retransmission consent or must carry by September 30th. And so the negotiation process is really pretty short. It's October, November, and a little bit of December. And so any information we can get on the retrans part, we need it as quickly as we can get it. With the 2 billing cycles now, it makes it a little bit more difficult. We got a little bit extra time built into it, but we really want to get moving on this. We've been working on it behind the scenes for a few weeks, but this is the only opportunity we have to get in front of you here at the July meeting. So part of the survey stuff will go out as part of the 26th invoice, and then the August 11th. And then they'll begin the phone interviews next week, and then data collection will happen through August and into early September. It says that they'll deliver the information to us around October 2nd, and present the results to you. We'll have the results as quickly as we can there in October. So we're gonna continue to use the information, whatever it is, as part of our beginning our negotiations on the retrans side. It's going to be a few years before we can really use the information, I guess, on the clubhouse, because we're probably not going to open that thing back up till, well, I don't know, 2019, 2020 maybe, I'm not sure. The skinny bundle, that'd be great information when we get it. We're just kind of looking forward to moving this down the road a little bit and gathering up the info, and we would ask that you would consider approving the agreement with Matrix.
Can I ask John?
2 questions.
Sure.
One, we've used Comer. We've seen their work. They did the work with Monique on customer service. And of course, UK's in here. And then Matrix, what do we know about them? I mean, we've got their pricing here. Have we seen some other work they've done? Are they pretty good, or?
This really has been Harvey's project, and he has been really more involved in that part of it, and I really needed to defer to him. I know he's met with him, he's seen some of the work they've done, but he can do a better job to answering that question than I can. So I'm going to have to ask him to come up and help me out a little bit.
Yeah, so they've been in, excuse me, Ms. DeReamer has been working in the Lexington area for 20 plus years. She's done work for Rupp Arena and the Lexington Center, and all of her, all the feedback I've seen has been positive with with the work. And like John mentioned, I think the methodology with the online portion will help the accuracy, the results of the survey.
And and I'm certainly the worst person in the world to design questions, because mine are always slanted and loaded. But will we be asking questions not only just, do you not want to pay more for, for retransmission, like you're paying 12, but to get some idea what is the break point of where, if it went from $12 to $18, is that play? Is it would go from 12 to 28? That's a deal breaker.
We've argued on this one thing probably more we've negotiated on this one thing between the two of us more than anything else. I mean, our budget is very clear, and we thought it was most appropriate to use the budget figures that we put before you all.
Right.
That was our best guess, and it seems logical for us to not stray from the numbers that we talked about. And so we gave some, I think part of the questions, they give a low end if you drop some and you have one of each, and then there's a high end if you keep everything. And so you can't really not ask, you have to ask a question in that way. But we also have to have a little wiggle room because we're not sure exactly what these folks are going to ask for yet. They don't have to tell us. They really don't have to tell us on September 30th.
Right.
Usually we don't even see some of this stuff until early to mid-October. So we're going to use budget figures as best we can guess.
And for example, like on the clubhouse, you're not just saying, are you in favor of keeping the clubhouse? Well, I bet we'd go 90% yes. Then the question is, do you ever plan to use the clubhouse? Then if that answer all of a sudden drops to 30%, that's another. They'll follow up. What I've always found on these type of surveys where you kind of get the one bite of the apple is you need to contemplate the follow-up question. Because otherwise you just say, well, 90% of the people said they want it.
Yeah.
But 40% of the people said they're never going to use it.
I think the idea was the first question would be, are you aware of the clubhouse? And then the follow-up would be, if you are, would you be interested in, if it became available for renting again?
Right.
Would you be interested in?
We give some background on the draft questions on how long it's been closed.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we necessarily say anything about the future of when it's going to be open because we're not really sure. I mean, I question will this information change between now and 2020 after y'all approving rental stuff here today? Will it change people's attitudes or even their thoughts about the clubhouse down the road? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens 2 or 3 years down the road. But we have a time crunch and how long we can have people on the phone or do that the phone more than anything. And so it's the last question. So it's at the end because the retrans is the most important to us, and then the skinny bundle is second. So we've got a couple of questions there.
Thank you.
We're happy to pass this stuff on to you in the morning. In the morning of the questions as we have them set up. Happy to pass them to you.
I noticed in 2014 that we did the survey ourselves.
No,
It doesn't.
Ms. Comer did it for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry if that
It
wasn't
just
very
says
clear the way that
FPB
was written.
conducted, so I assume that means we did it. Okay.
I move that we approve the terms of agreement with the Matrix Group, Inc. for $11,850 for survey.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, any more old and new business, folks? General manager's comments?
Our next KyMEA meeting is going to be held this coming the 27th, next week, Thursday. It's in Louisville. We'll put on social media sites the exact locations. It's going to be held in conjunction with the annual KyMEA meeting. So I'll get an email out to all you folks, and on our social media sites the exact location of that meeting. It's in Louisville.
Is that this coming?
It's
Thursday?
next week, the
Next
27th.
Next week from Thursday. Okay, 27th, okay. Okay, looks like we need another closed session. I'm asking permission to have a closed session pursuant to KRS 61-810-1C for the discussion of potential litigation regarding liquidated damages for the administration building contract. Do we have a motion for a closed
I move
session?
we go into closed session. Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. We'll go into closed session.